You're good.
Okay.
All right, everyone. Hello and welcome. Winner Circle Sports Betting Podcast. It's a Football Friday coming at you here. What is today? It's October 18th. Holy cow. Week 8 of college football, week 7 of NFL. Time flies when you're winning games. Major League Baseball, we had a good one last night. We'll talk about that in the show here as well. We got 4 picks today in NFL action. Before I get to that, remember, hit the like button here. Notification bells on so you know when we do our live show on Friday. We also do the Monday Night Live at 7 p.m. And then free picks Monday to Thursday. And then we even pop in a Friday one there with, you see him here now. Jim Feist, Paul Bovey, Chip Chirimbus, Doug Upstone, myself, Marc Lawrence, Victor King, Doug Upstone, Kyle Hunter, a lot of guys. Ricky Tran. Use the leaderboards because 3 738 packages are all guaranteed. This is a free pick video. We're going to give you 4. We're going to talk about whatever you bring up in the chat. So 4 is going to turn into probably 14 or more. Have fun. Get a pen out. You can listen to it after the fact on YouTube. But be sure to follow our sponsor here, gamblersWORLD.net on the Twitter universe. And again, our premium picks are up there. Everyone will tell you what they got going on this weekend. So go get them. But I got to introduce my first time. I just saw him off stage for the first time. Jim Feist. I said, man, I used to watch you on TV. And I think Marc Lawrence said the same thing I said to him. He's like, oh, is that like some old guy reference? I'm like, no, it's more like you're a famous guy reference. So, it's funny because, I said to Marc and you guys are like what I grew up on in my sports betting youth. And here I am. I'm like, I feel like I'm like the odd duckling here when I have you guys on the show all the time. Even with Marc and Victor, now it's like, wow, it's something.
It's really about Marc and I turning it over to the young guys. You're one of the young guys.
Yeah, but it's crazy. Like I'm the young guy, and I'm like 50, and I don't. I feel like I'm turning over to like all these young cats on like TikTok and Instagram who are doing their nonsense. I'm like, I'm like some old guy, and then I get 2 guys who I watched on TV. It's crazy. I love it, but it's great to have you. Finally, get you on the live show. I know you ought to be here with us, but listen, if there is a person who doesn't know who you are, you could share some of your tales with us here for the viewers. Again, you guys, it's like, how don't you know who you are? But again, we have people here who just found sports betting and think that 7-game parlays on the money line are easy money. So they probably do not know who you are.
I'm sure that Marc and I can give them a lot of lessons. Believe me, this is betting sports is it's a tough way to make an easy living.
It's exactly right.
And I mean, Marc and I have both been doing this for almost 6 decades.
Oh.
And
well, speak for yourself, Jim.
Hey, I know, your handsome guy look like you're sitting on a football field up behind you. And it looks good.
Good.
But seriously, Marc, you and I know we go back to the same decades. We've been doing this almost 6 decades.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. When we first got started, we were in a sense competitors. Then we became colleagues. Then we became friends. And, through it all, it's been a really wonderful life experience. And I did a lot of things with Jim, if not so directly, but indirectly. Jim was also into a lot of other parts of this business and this industry, and 900 numbers when they were real popular. And he was the kingpin of all that. And he was the man that I used as my source to do all that stuff with. So a lot of history, no doubt about it. And we probably do have some war stories we could tell. If there wasn't a thing called Barstool Sports, we could create it. That's for sure.
It'd be a lot better than that. I mean,
yes,
we come on and Jim hasn't been here, but Marc, sometimes we'll go into it. We'll bring up like references from, I more hit the 80s, but you go back to some of your I don't say 60s. That's I hate dating you, but you go back to like some of your references of music and stuff. And when Victor's here, it's about fast food we bring in. But if you guys had like literally an old school podcast, because I think Jim, are you with? I saw some kind of like pizza review or not pizza review, but the restaurant I saw with Crackman and you were on. So it was like you see a bunch of guys who's been in it for a while. That show, we go for an hour here. We could probably go longer. Like that kind of, you guys just talking about 80s and 90s sports betting could probably be like a 6-hour daily show.
We're doing a show out of the Dom DeMarco's
Don DeMar, that's what it is.
Pizza here in Las Vegas on West Charleston. And we started last week was our first show. And we had Money Mike was on there along with Crackman, both excellent. We're going to have different guests each week, and we're going to broadcast it on the internet and locally and nationally, and hope to build a following. It's a great show. I'd love to have Marc on if he's ever in Las Vegas. It's really good. It's educational. You know, we can give out picks, and it's kind of goes back to the old saying: if I give you a fish, you eat for the day. If I give you the knowledge how to fish, you eat for a lifetime. So we're trying to do a little bit of both. You're not going to make a lot of money sports betting unless you can manage your money. And when I say a lot of money, it's relative to what your lifestyle is. A lot of money to one guy could be $100,000 a day. Another guy could be $10 a day. And not everybody bets at the level of Billy Walters or somebody like that. So we're just trying to keep people from going broke. I think the goal is to have fun and not go broke, because this is a business, and I know Marc will back this up. You can go broke a lot easier than you can make a lot of money.
No question, because through it all is where we learn and gain our experience, and it's all about discipline. And if you can discipline yourself well enough to treat this like a business and then run it like a business, as opposed to a passing fancy, you do have a chance to succeed and make some money in this. But you have to have really dedication in what it is that you're doing here. And Jim brought up a great point about how important it is how people bet. And this is true. I've seen people that are terrific handicappers, as good as anybody they've ever crossed paths with, and they can't win a dime because they don't know how to bet. They're 6-team parlaying and the 10-team teasering and all that crap. It's so vitally important to understand that it's tough enough to pick one game, one winner, let alone have to tie them into 6 teams that have to win for you to cash one ticket. People get a little bit too greedy when it comes to, I would say, teasers and then parlays and the exotics and all those types of things. So what Jim says is really true. If you talk to Crackman and Jim, I'm sure he would tell you the same thing as well. You focus in on handicapping a game and let the game work for you. You don't have to win the board in every bet that you make. That's the whole key.
I like to say the best way to go 3-1 is to put it a 4-team parlay. Right?
I'll give you a story about that. There was this one Saturday we gave out 7 college games. Now the games turned out really great. We were 6-1. The next day, a customer called in and he started to complain. How could you give me that game? How could you, sir? You were 6-1. You should have made a lot of money. I parlayed them.
Nope.
There you go. There you go.
This is it's the education process. See, it's kind of like the media. It's the salespeople. It's everybody selling you a bill of goods, which is one of the reasons I changed the business model, because you can't control what everybody says. So education is more important than the actual free plays that you get. It's education, know how to manage your money, live within your bankroll. Marc, you finish your show every week. What does it say? Something about over the head and
learn to bet with your head and not over it. And that's the most important thing. Use your head to make money. Don't bet over your head. Don't bet with money that you don't have. It's the road to the poorhouse. And it's also the road to becoming degenerate. And, we don't need to be thinking about either of those two things. We want to learn how to win in this business. And that's the thing I think Jim and I have learned the most, is learning how to win.
Well, especially nowadays, right? Because people newer, like we're old school guys. We had 800, we had to call into an 800 number, an offshore place, a 212 number in New York. Now you open up these apps and it's automatic. Here come the same game parlays. Like they just want, before they don't want you to parlays. Now they just force these parlays on you. Do a player prop parlay, do this and that, and the commercials. Have fun with your friends while betting. Have fun. Listen, do you want to have fun or you want to make money? Because having fun is a ridiculous 12-leg teaser or some parlay or some nonsense. Right? And that's what they push. That is what you see on social media. Look at this. It's turning $3 into $147,000. Like people, I do a little show on Sunday. It's Look at Lines, talking about NFL the next week. And I'm like, grab this game here. The line's going to move. And people, no, I'm not going to bet that because I want to bet a first basket tomorrow in NBA. I need to in-game. This generation, like you talk about going broke, they will be broke or at least staying with their parents because it's all catered to young guys who are coming out of daily fantasy stuff. This in-gaming nonsense, like you're on an app, it's not real money. It's not real money on an app, right? It's like when you go casino, you're playing with casino chips. Oh, look at this. It's orange. It's pretty. It's black. It's gray. It's red. You're hitting a button on a phone. Dig into your pocket. Like when I'm in Vegas, I was just there. You dig in your pocket and pull out $330 or $1,100 or 65 or 50, whatever you're pulling out. That's for money. It's not a button you're hitting and just hitting a button, folks.
Sean, you mentioned in-game wagering, and that's become the in thing right now. And I think it's crack cocaine for gamblers today. And largely because if for no other reason, you have no concept or no idea of what your return on your investment is. If it's a good proposition or it's not a good proposition, it's all hunch betting. It's all what you see and what you feel. And that's what the bookmakers want. They want to feed you as much crack cocaine as they can to get you to keep pouring in the bets and not even realizing the hold or the handle that they have on those in-game wagers. They're unbelievable, all in their favor.
And the odds, they've jacked up the prices and the odds of making these bets, like in teasers where you used to get you're taking a 2 or 3 team or whatever teaser you're playing. It used to be reasonable odds. Some of them are now charging $1.40 to make a teaser play. You can't win money doing that. It's impossible.
Since the advent of the legal sports books, the two biggest offenders being DraftKings and FanDuel, they're the pigs. They're the ones that take that $1.30, $1.40 away from people, and they don't have any hesitancy at all of doing it because people let them do it. And I passed the story along. I know I've done it on our podcast, Jim, and I may have here in it. You got to correct me if I'm repeating myself here, Sean. But one of my best friends, a long time friend of mine, ran one of the biggest offshore sports books in the world, and they were closed down by the government because they wanted them because they were too big. Well, anyway, he still remains a real good friend of mine. In fact, he even does a lot of the proofing on my newsletter for me. He's really sharp guy. And he told me that their sports book, they made all of their money. I'm not saying a little bit, all of their money came from people betting teasers and parlays. Teasers and parlays is where they made all their money. Now, what does that tell you? That's all you need to know. You're not going to overcome all those return on risk possibilities and having to win cash five wins to cash one ticket. Just be calm and be sensible and bet with your head. Don't try and win a lottery ticket with every wager you make. That's all.
I feel with in-gaming, at least when I look at it, because I try not to do that, right? I'm like, just bet it, forget it. I'm not going to sit and watch a game and get all wrapped up in it. But you already have a mindset of a game, right? Whether if you bet it beforehand or write it, you already like something in the game. Like, oh, I like the Yankees to win today. And all of a sudden they're down. You're like, oh, look at this. I'm getting my plus money now. They were just favored. And now you're doubling up on a bad bet that it was been a lose already. You're already hardwired into thinking one thing. Like most people aren't going to go opposite of their thought to try to get out of something. They're going to just keep pressing on what they thought was going to happen. Right? They're down 30. Oh, they're 30. They'll come back in NBA. I can't condone it. I don't do that. I think it's bad.
Sean, you hit it right on the head when you said I'm getting plus money. You may be getting plus money, but you're not getting enough plus money. That's the hold that the bookmakers are strangling the players with. You're going to feel, oh, wow, I can play them plus $1.60, let the better team come back and win the game, when the true value on this bet would have been plus 210. But you don't know that because you can't think fast enough and everything flies by so fast. You just knee-jerk and do it, and you end up taking the short end of the odds.
There are different ways of looking at games, and there's a group of players, and they're actually very successful. They don't even care who the teams are. Matter of fact, they cover up the team names.
Yes.
And they just look for positive EV, which is expected value. So if you can make a good line, and not everybody can do this, and I say if you can make a good line, and you make the line on the game, say, plus 140, and the odds makers are giving you plus 190. That's a positive EV based on your experience of making the number. They don't care who the teams are.
No,
it doesn't matter because it's like betting a stock. The stock is selling at $3. You think it should be selling at $5. It's the same kind of a thing. They don't care about the teams. They don't care about blocking and tackling stats or anything. They just care about the positive EV based on the money. That's a different kind of way of handicapping. Another way that things have changed over the years. Now, Mark, you and I go back, I said 6 decades. When we went back there were no proposition bets. There were no total bets. There were no halftime bets. You couldn't bet on one player to go over or under a certain number of yards or a certain number of TDs. Now, the most popular bets are proposition bets on these players. This team rushing, or this player rushing for so much, or throwing for so much, or how many teams, and anytime touchdowns, things that were never available 5-6 decades ago that, quite frankly, I wasn't even accustomed to, and I'm not that proficient at it right now because I wasn't brought up with it.
Well, good for you, Jim, because you know it and you acknowledge it and you admit it, and as such. And I put the blame a lot of this aside from the bookmakers on the analytics geeks, okay, who are out there professing what edge that they have in a quarterback pass rate when he's dropped and pressured inside of 4 seconds and all that garbage like that. Well, that sounds good. It sounds like you did your analytical homework, but that 4-second pass drop, if it happens 5 times in a row and it doesn't work well, then that 4-second pass drop becomes 4.5 seconds on the next evaluation. So it's all just a pure ass crapshoot is what it is. And it all comes down to betting with your head and doing the logical thing. If the bet you're going to make, is it logical? Then you got a green light to do it.
Hey, you mentioned like the EV guys finding a better number, and they're probably more volume guys, and people don't want to see that. Like, people are enamored by the 70%. Look at this, folks. I'm 76-6, or some ridiculous Vegas Dave type nonsense of some kind of record. But that doesn't mean you're making money if you're laying crazy odds on these percentages. Like, you're taking plus 190s all the time. You can be under 500, folks, and you know what? You might have some money in your pocket when you're going 10 games under 500 at plus 150s, 170s, 180s. The public people don't like that. They want to see a 8-2, not a 3-7 plus money. They want to see that 8-2, even if they're only up $145. They don't care. They're 8-2.
There's one form of this that we're talking about, Sean, that I've learned along the way, and I know Jim has, and Jim has professed this and passed this along, and I'll hand this off to Jim. When you're talking about these football games, and you can make a lot of money with money lines, okay? Yes. And, it's simply just identifying a dog that you feel can win the game realistically and start from there. But what I like what Jim does is when it comes to wagering on a football team that's a small favorite, instead of having to lay 2.5 points, Jim will play that team on the money line.
Absolutely.
Save the juice. Explain that, Jim, if you would, please.
Well, especially it used to be different. A 3 is the livest number in football, but let's take a football game and the game's -2 or 1.5. Why should I take a chance of laying 1.5 or 2? The odds makers are already telling you, and I do have to give respect to the odds makers. They do know what the hell they're doing many times. So if an odds maker makes the game 1.5 or 2-point favorite, and I like the favorite in the game, I'm going to bet the money line. I'm not going to take a chance on that backdoor cover or last minute field goal or missed extra point. I'm going to just bet the money line. Yep. And a lot of people don't do that. But the argument I have with that is this: when you're betting baseball, you're always betting the money line or the run line, but the money line predominantly. So if you're betting money lines in baseball, why the hell wouldn't you do it in football?
Yeah, especially to a play where you can get hooked or beat on a situation where you got to lay 2 or 2.5, and the team wins by 1. You had your handicap, you had your winner, but you failed to cash the ticket. So, and that's a great a way to put it. Compare it to baseball wagering, where every wager you make in baseball, aside from like Jim says, is a money line bet. It's really in truth what it is. So you have to ask yourself, am I getting value? Do I want to bite the bullet and pay the juice and play the money line as opposed to laying 2.5 in the game? Depends on how strong your play is and how you feel about it.
When it comes to baseball, I feel, and I get to 140s and I just have to go run line. Although the last 2 years, that's kind of cost me. I have to swallow my pride and be like, you know what? I can lay a 147. It's not going to break me over the course of a season for over 700 games. I can lay a 145 every once in a while.
Run lines are tough because there's so many games that do end up one.
Yeah.
But there is a way to play -1.5 and basically make it -1. And I'll tell you how to do that. Let's say the Yankees are -1.5 today, and you want to bet them against Cleveland. Well, you lay the 1.5, but you go back and you lay the money line. So now you take a percentage of your bankroll on the 1.5, and you percentage your bankroll on the on the money line. So basically, you have taken it. If the Yankees win the game by 1, you get it. If they win the game by 2, you win both bets. So now you have marginalized the -1.5 by taking it down to -1 by having 2 bets. But you got to split your money up a little bit because you are definitely laying more money on the laying the money line without the 1.5. So you have to take that and take your bet. Maybe it's $100 bet. You might have to have 60 on one side and 40, or 70 and 30. There's a method of doing that. And a lot of people, pro bettors, do that a lot.
Would you see
it's a form of arbitrage wagering in a sense is what it is, or middling games, just looking for a situation where you're in a can't lose situation. You can push one side and win another.
You're on the same side. You're betting the Yankees either minus the 1.5 or minus the money line, but you're taking it from laying 1.5 down to only 1.
Yeah. See, in that spot, instead of laying the money line, I would just go a no bottom 9 if they're home. Be like, I'll take a no bottom 9 instead of laying 230 with Cole. I'd rather do like a 145 then. Like
that's not available to everybody. I mean, that's the FanDuels and the DraftKings do it, but you can't find that in Las Vegas.
Yeah, the no bottom 9s are kind of saves you a little bit there with that kind of thing. Where as opposed to doing 2 no bottom 9 bets. As bad as the FanDuels and DraftKings are, they do come up with some good things like that. Where it's like,
they're very innovative, definitely.
Oh, they got these kids, and we're going to get to football in a second. Like you're talking about, the player props. My son, he's going to be 18. His buddies, they're all on like Prize Picks in these apps and they can bet on it. He's like, next time we go I might go back to Vegas in Thanksgiving. He's like, I want to come out with you because I want to do some betting. I'm like, you can't bet out there. He's like, why not? I can bet on Prize Picks. I'm like,
yep.
That's different. Prize Picks is not. It's not real betting, but it is because these kids in high school are all doing it. It's crazy. They lure them in on these player props with stuff like that. Go ahead.
The player props are the fentanyl of sports betting, is what they are.
It is. Well, they got a generation hooked because all these kids under 25, that's what they've done. Fantasy football, right? Now all of a sudden you got kids now in high school because you got to just be 18 to get. He's going to be 18 in a couple months, but he gets on all of his buddies. That's all they do. It's crazy. Like, so you don't think in 3 years or when they get legalized betting down here? I mean, we just drive 2 hours to Louisiana, jump at a sports book right at a kiosk right over the border.
Nice.
Yeah, it's good and bad. Now when you got a kid, I'm like, I don't need this guy coming to degenerate land. Come on.
I would say this, Sean, that the first half of the show with Jim and I here together, you opened the door for us, and we shared a little bit of history and a little bit of experience and knowledge and everything we have. So we didn't get so much into the handicapping of the football games this weekend, but at least we got into something that we profess, and that's learning as you're playing games. And the whole value is taking something away that you didn't know. We hope that we did that in the opening part of the show here today.
Listen, Mark, I think when we first did this with you and Victor, the first couple shows for the first 20 minutes, we talked about a bunch of stuff. So it's perfectly normal because we'll ramp up the games. We'll get through those in a second. But it's good to talk about that. Some people like to listen to this kind of stuff. They love it. They got a bunch of wacky podcasts that are a lot worse than this that get people watching. This is actually good stuff that people should learn from. So it's all right that we can get off base a little bit. But we do have football to talk to. And Victor King is not with us. He's out having Wendy's chili potatoes or something right now.
In Cleveland, Ohio, yeah.
So he's probably under the weather, probably a little food poisoning from the Wendy's chili. His game is Carolina-Washington, but I got to get it out here for everybody. He liked the over first half, 26.5 between Carolina and the Commanders. And I'd probably kind of agree with this just based on the way Jaden Daniels been playing and the poor defense of both teams. We'll just touch on this briefly. If you have any thoughts on Carolina-Washington, Mark? He likes the over first half.
Well, I'm not a big totals guy. I leave all that up to Victor. And like Jim says, I listen intently when Victor speaks because he makes a lot of sense and he does a lot of homework. I can guarantee you that. So you wouldn't find me going the other way on something like that. There's no question about it. The game itself, to me, might be a little bit of a different case. But truth of the matter is, guys, I got to admit this. I am so tired of using these bad football teams and asking them to win football games. The teams that never win, the Carolinas, the Jacksonvilles and all that, and they look attractive. They look like they're in a nice spot this week and so forth and whatnot. And I've learned over the years, especially the second half of the National Football League season, do not bet on losing teams. Let them go. Just let them have their way and let them go. So Washington looks like they're a winning team, but Carolina is still Carolina.
Well, they both have terrible defenses.
Yes.
So I cannot disagree with that play. As a matter of fact, I've already bet that. And by the way, I'll just give you notice. I get flash notices all the time. It looks like the Colts are going to start Richardson this week, and that is a big drop down, in my opinion, from Flacco.
Huge
talent-wise,
huge
and experience-wise, huge drop down. But Richardson has a future. He's a young kid. And if he learns to not get hit as much, he might last. But he has talent. But Flacco's a much better quarterback at this point.
Do you think
he's Jamarcus Russell in the making? Yeah, if someone's promised, never delivers the good. The kid's always injured, and everything is based on when Richardson comes back and when Richardson comes back and when he comes back. When he was at Florida, he was never all that good. He had a lot of poise and promise and so forth and whatnot. But now they're pricing this kid like he's a playoff type caliber quarterback. And the fact of the matter is, he's dead last in the National Football League in NFL passer quarterback rating.
What's he played 6 games in 2 years?
That's what you're getting from him. Exactly.
I mean, he played 8 in college.
So,
I couldn't believe when they took him.
They spend a lot of money on these quarterbacks, and they forget that they have to put talent around them to make it work. You need an offensive line. You need some blocking backs for the quarterbacks. You need wide receivers to catch the ball. The quarterback doesn't win by himself.
Jim, I've said this to Mark and Victor in here a bunch of times. I said these teams draft quarterbacks in the top 5, top 10. You're going to a team with a new head coach, have holes all over the place, and they're thrown into something where it's a terrible situation. I mean, when we talk about Jaguars a second, I mean, they got Mac Jones on their roster now. What happened to him? You know, this guy was a top 5 pick.
You know, the thing is, you have to look at where the NFL is these days. Half the league is really not very good. And it's barely better than college. And now with the injuries cropping up, even to the good teams and the bad teams, of course, the good teams go out and trade for more good players than they get from the bad teams. So the bad teams give up their good players for more draft choices, and they go to the better teams. So the bottom of the league actually gets worse. But, you know, so they're in the regrowth or rebuilding process. And that's happening all over the league. And you're going to see that the top of the league is going to get much. And you have seen it the last couple of weeks. An amazing stat last week. And Mark, you know this better than anybody because you keep up on the stats better than anybody. The home dogs last week, 0-8. That's never happened before. 0-8 home dogs.
That's how I go 3-7 on an NFL Sunday.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I was in the burn unit all week this week. They just let me out on Wednesday.
Oh, my goodness. Listen, we might have had a bad Sunday, but you know what? 3-0 last week here on our Football Friday Live, and we are 14-7 on the show. So
that's pretty damn good.
So Jim, pressure's on you. All right, you got to start contributing here. Here comes your game. A great game. Patriots and the Jaguars talking about bad teams. Here we go. When is it time to move on from Trevor Lawrence? Is this guy going to make it back from this trip? Are they going to fire the head coach if they lose here?
Well, I would, but you know, there is Trevor Lawrence came in. Everybody said this is like the prototypical quarterback. He's going to be the number 1 draft pick. He's going to be awesome, but he's never developed. But I have to say this: I don't think he's had great coaching since he's been there. It's been a little bit of a disaster. They have a good owner. The man will spend money. He will put things together, building a beautiful stadium. And they do play a lot of games in London, but and the league is going to expand to other countries. This week, this is a tough game to wake up early. I have to get up at 6:30 in the morning to watch this game because of what time it starts. I'm not going to do that. But okay, let me talk about the rain. It's supposed to rain really, really hard. And that's bad. And it's sideways rain because the wind is 40 to 50 mile an hour wind gusts. It's an unusual stadium. They're in Wembley. They're not at the stadium they played Tottenham last week. They're in Wembley. It's an unusual roof that can block the wind and lessen the effect of the wind sometimes, but not all the time. So here's what we got. And we got a new surface because they've complained about the surface in the past. So they put in this new surface that kind of rolls in, and they've never played on this thing. Maybe it's a little bit like what they do in Vegas because it kind of rolls the whole thing into the stadium. And if it's raining, it's going to get wet. It's going to be slick. It's going to be maybe like Brazil when they played over there and it was terrible conditions. It could be like that. I can't lay Jacksonville with points. I don't know what the hell we're going to get out of Peterson you have a big edge experience in the quarterback and you have a big edge at coach, but they're not playing well. And to talk about the disappointment factor, Jacksonville came into the league this year with high hopes, winning the division, getting to the playoffs. They're terrible. They're 1-5. The other side, New England, is also 1-5, but they're not disappointed. Why? Because they had no hopes. I mean, I know people who were betting under 4.5 on their win total. So nobody had any high hopes for them. They're just rebuilding, new coach, new everything. Drake May he got some talent. I don't know why the hell he had to have an MRI this week. He's going to play, but this is what we're dealing with. This is what I call crap football. So I'm going to do one thing in this game. I'm going to take an advance on the under, because if it's as bad as they say it is, it's probably going to go under 70-80% of the time. If it's not as bad as they say it is weather-wise, I'm going to go under probably 55% of the time anyway. So I think I have an edge just going under. Pick a side, take points. I have no idea with these kind of conditions.
Under the 42, I tend to agree, right? I mean, even if it's perfect day, you still got garbage quarterback and not good teams and a defensive first team in New England. So I'm with you on
the real price is, what's the odds of Peterson not being fired?
I think he's getting canned if they lose. Even if I think it's a close game. I mean, he won't get fired if they win because they didn't fire him last week.
He might not be on the airplane ride going back home if they don't win. Really?
No, he should not be. He's got to fly home commercial.
There you go.
I don't know. I think the coach would probably. I think the owner would bring him back and fire him on Monday like a normal.
They bought him a ticket on the Titanic.
Yeah, that's his return ticket.
Or what was the? Let's get into conspiracies here. Did it really sink, or was it its sister sink? The Britannica. There was another one that they said was really sunk and not the Titanic. No, you don't go down around that guy. I pull that stuff with Ross, and Ross would lose his mind.
I have no idea.
I like to throw out just some crazy stuff on a Friday there, Jim. I didn't know if we talk about chili with you, so I throw out a crazy Titanic story that I have no clue about because I wasn't alive. Well, you guys are probably capping that. Was there odds on that back in the day when you guys were teenagers, right?
Mark and I were working on.
We're working those numbers up, yeah.
Cincy and Cleveland. Oh boy. Here's another Titanic mess. The Cleveland Browns. What is going on? Hi, we're going to stick with Deshaun Watson. 5.5 point dog. This actually line's actually come down, which I want to take the Browns here. Total of 41.5. They've had the Bengals number. Do you like them, Mr. Cleveland? Skyline Chili?
Well, it's Skyline Chili. That's Cincinnati, but I love Skyline Chili. I'll tell you that. The numbers come down because Cleveland's a lot healthier this week than they've been probably all season long. They're getting a couple of offensive linemen back, a couple of players on defense. And that all adds up in the numbers. You crunch the numbers. You're Kenny White, you're an odds maker, a power rating guy, and each player has a value, and hence the numbers come down in this football game. But you're looking at this football matchup here, my goodness. I mean, you're looking at a Cleveland Browns football team that hasn't scored 20 points in any game this season so far. 20 points, you haven't cracked the number yet. Sooner or later it's going to happen, but are you going to bank on it in a game like this? The other side of the coin is the Cincinnati Bengals are not a good football team at all themselves. Yes, Joe Burrow is the number 1 ranked quarterback in the league in passer rating. But Cincinnati is still a bad football team. And, now they're going to have to ask themselves to win a division game on the road. They're just 3-15 in their last 18 division road games. All of a sudden they're going to lay points to try and make that number 4-15 here in a game like this here today. And you mentioned Deshaun Watson, Sean. Obviously he's taking a beating and deservedly so. But it is not all his fault of what's happening to the Cleveland Browns this year. He has no protection whatsoever. It's like this offensive line doesn't even know what the word condom means. The guy's just getting beat up and drilled every football game. He leads the league in sacks 31 times. He's been sacked. What are you going to do? I mean, all you can do is stick with your plan, and that's what Kevin Stefanski's doing. They asked him when he would change to Jameis and Winston, and he said he has no plans to do that because Deshaun Watson gives him a better chance to win. I can assure you that answer came from Haslam and the owners of the football team. They're not going to pay this kid this kind of money to watch him sit on the bench and watch Jameis Winston lead this team to victory. That's never going to happen. So you will see Deshaun Watson for a lot this football season here, provided he's healthy to do just that. But and one of the reasons is because home dogs, as Jim mentioned, were 0-8 straight up into the spread last year, and you've got a division home dog here. I want to be first in line at the home dog window this particular week in the NFL because they're not going to go 0-8 anytime soon. I can guarantee you that. I'm going to play Cleveland plus the points, get my big, ugly clothespin out, put it in my nose. Don't like the smell of it at all. But give me Cleveland plus the points here. I don't think Cincinnati warrants being a division road favorite at this stage of the season.
It is the dog pound, kind of stinky. And how about, have I read correctly that no more stadium? They're going to move the stadium.
Yeah, they're moving it to a suburb called Brook Park, which is I lived in the city right next to Brook Park. It's a pretty nice little city, a suburb, but it's a hard decision the Browns made because they're leaving the lakefront. That's where the Indians play. The Indians stadium is there. It's where the Brown stadiums have always been. So they're taking it out of Cleveland and moving it to the suburbs. But guess what? Most of these stadiums today in these cities are in suburbs, and Cleveland needs a dome stadium in the worst of way.
No, they don't, man. It's about the weather in Cleveland. Come on.
The balmy weather in Cleveland. I forgot about that. Yeah. Those gray linoleum skies. Yeah.
It is a big tax hit for the city of Cleveland, though, when they move out of the city.
Oh, for sure it will be.
That's huge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cleveland plus 5.5, the official play here from Marc Lawrence. So, Marc Lawrence free pick. Cleveland Browns plus 5.5. Jim Feist under 42. Jags New England. Victor King in our hearts and minds today. He's not with us. He's in spirit. Over first half. Washington. Was that 24.5? Was scrolling across here. These are the free picks. Again, folks, you can go gamblersworld.net, get all premium plays. College football's up for tonight. College football for Saturday. I saw that Jim was on a 12-6 college football run. Pretty darn good. Marc Lawrence also on good runs in college football, 9-3. My pick today here is going to be Kansas City and San Francisco. So I guess I got the good game out of all the Carolinas and the Jaguars. It just worked out. You know what?
Yeah.
Listen, Jim, hold on. So I usually throw a Cleveland game to one of these guys because they're Cleveland guys, and I usually get a Tampa Jaguar game because they're in Florida. I figure we get a little inside track on those games. And
we talked about 4 teams that will never reach the Super Bowl. You're already there.
Jim, he gave you the Patriots. He gave me the Browns. He's taking Frisco and Kansas City.
Listen, again, you always get the Browns. You or Victor will get the Browns or Tampa Bay or somewhere because that's your neck. I figured. I'm sorry. You know what? I guess I got to switch that around sometimes. Anyway, so here I got a. Is this? I don't know. Is this a Super Bowl rematch with these guys? I thought these guys were like 4-win teams last year. I don't even know. Are they
played the Super Bowl? That's right.
Yes.
Overtime game.
Was it any good quarterback play in Kansas City? Is it Elvis Grayback going to start? Is he suiting up this week? Elvis Grayback? No. San Fran is a small fave here. 1.5 total 47. Both guys off their buys. We saw the Niners lose to Arizona. Kansas City, an ugly kind of win over the Chargers. I've gone down this path before. I had the Niners in the Super Bowl where I watched their coach choke away another Super Bowl win. That's 3 of them for that guy. He's got the hat trick of blowing Super Bowl leads. Kyle Shanahan. I had Baltimore over Kansas City, thinking that we got you at home. the Bills just ran all over you. We're going to beat you with a run game. They ran the ball 4 times, and then they decided never to run the ball again the entire game after the first quarter. And then I had the Bills over these guys at home thinking, it's payback time. We finally get Kansas City on the road. None of those teams could take care of business. I've learned my lesson. We have Andy Reid is 21-3 off bye weeks here. Mahomes 13-3 is a dog, something like that. I'm taking Kansas City. I'll take the 110, 150, whatever it is, plus money. They don't cover a lot of games. That's fine, right? They kind of play down because they have Super Bowl aspirations, right? They're like, let's just get in here with a win. Who cares? Now they're an underdog. 2 years ago, I saw them come in here and drop 44 on Purdy and Garoppolo off of a bye week. I'm going to take Kansas City here to get it done. I don't care. They don't have wide receivers. They still have Mahomes, the best quarterback. They got Andy Reid, the best coach. Better defense, I think, too. I think the Niners will still banged up all across the board for them. Give me the Chiefs on the money line here. Let's call it a 110.
Here, a couple interesting stats here that you mentioned here, Sean, about Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City, the dog, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, Kansas City's 15-1 to the spread the last 16 times. They've been a road dog. That's pretty strong. Mahomes only lost the money 1 time as a dog. But you talk about this Andy Reid week of rest, get ready, advantage, and all that. The last 7 times he's had a week of rest, he's gone 2-5 to the spread as Kansas City with Andy Reid the last 7 times. And if you look at the quarterback rankings or ratings of all the quarterbacks in the league this year, where do you think Patrick Mahomes ranks? Number 19 overall. He's not hitting on all cylinders here right now because the players he has around him are not the type of players that Mahomes is accustomed to, especially at the wide receiver position. So I'm just going to throw a little bit of, if you will, salt on that wound, if you will.
That's
a little
all right.
bit here. Okay.
I get it.
You can make cases for both sides, but I know one thing. If Jim Feist were betting San Francisco, he wouldn't be laying the 1.5. He'd be playing them on the money line.
It's not a game I'm going to play at this moment unless there's some kind of information. There's this game. I don't know if this game is really that important to anybody on these teams as far as their record is concerned. It's more of an ego thing. San Francisco did lose the Super Bowl. Matter of fact, they keep losing to Kansas City when they play up to them. I mean, they played in another Super Bowl and lost when Garoppolo was the quarterback. So they keep doing that. And as you mentioned, San Francisco does blow fourth quarter leads. They did it in 3 Super Bowls already. And they have a tendency to do that. I definitely love the advantage at defensive coordinator. Spagnuolo is, I think, the best in the business. It's a tough game, but it's early in the season. It's only week 7. Both of these teams know they're going to be there when they get healthy. They're not fully healthy right now because you're introducing new wide receivers to Kansas City. You got a couple players, key players. CMC, for example, is out for San Francisco. When these players all get back at the end of the year, these 2 teams very well could be back in the Super Bowl. I'm not too sure that other than the media and the fans, this is any more than a regular season game for both teams.
Yeah, obviously, like San Fran's got the little chip on their shoulder for blowing, 2 Super Bowls against these guys. But I'm with you with that. And even what Mark said, Mahomes 6 interceptions, 6 touchdowns, has not been sharp. 19th best quarterback. The 2-7 ATS spread though is, let's be honest, they're favored in those games. They can be coming out of a break as an 8.5-point favorite, not as a dog. That's, I don't know what the exact numbers are on that, but in this case, I just can't. I've lost the last 3 times I've tried this. I've gone home with my tail between my legs. I'm not doing it again.
Sean, I got to throw this at you because people throw it at me a lot. I'm a huge dog lover and a big dog better, but they will oftentimes say to me, if I'm making a case in this game for Kansas City being the dog, what do you do if this game goes to pick? All of a sudden, your dog is no longer there. It's a pick. Does it really still matter? That's the question. I'm asking you that question. What if it goes to pick?
No, because I'm still getting I'm on plus side. I'm ahead of that move. I'm already anticipating that, which is why I'm taking it, not waiting till somebody else moves the line. I like it at this number. If it moves that's why I stress getting down early in a game. You should have whether you come up with a number, forget to come up with a number. The lines are out on Wednesday. Next week 8 NFL came out on Wednesday. You could write your games down, put a little check to who you like, and on Sunday, Watch those numbers move. But you should have an idea who you like way before those games play, because short of a quarterback going out, the numbers shouldn't really change. They change based on your eye test and what we see, right? It's your confirmation bias. It's what we've just seen. Wow, that guy just got, the Jets look terrible on Monday night. What happened? Or so-and-so looks bad on Sunday Night Football. Look at the Cowboys barely won. Like, those numbers are based on what you see recently. Prime example, Niners-Cowboys next week, all right? That is I think a 3.5 I think I saw for that game. I'm not quite sure. If the Niners come out and win this game by 10, which they very well could have, this game could be 27-17 or something. That line's going to move 2 points because Dallas has looked terrible. They got the defense is banged up. How aren't the Niners? The Niners have owned them of late. Playoffs, regular season. That line's going to move 2 points. Take the Niners today. Take the Niners. If you think the Niners are winning, take them today because next week that line's going to move 2 points.
I'll tell you something right now. It's Friday. Since Wednesday, I could bet next week's lines.
Yes.
They're off. If you have offshore accounts, you can bet next week's lines on Wednesday this week. That's how soon the lines come out. They're not for big money. You can bet $4,000 or $5,000 on them, but then of course when it comes to the actual week, it could $50,000 to $100,000. But the lines are there. The odds makers are putting numbers up. They're putting them up for soft money, but they're there.
Do you think it's advantage doing that, Jim, to be able to do that now and then go up against all the possible ramifications of what could happen, injuries, results?
Well, the only
on the bad side of a number instead.
The only reason it's for small money, and
Yes.
if it was, if you're a $15,000 bettor, which is my normal, and I'm only betting 500 to 1,000 as a lead, it's not going to hurt me. But but that's the only reason. I
do ahead betting like this, so I do, and then not for big numbers like that. I had Denver plus 2.5 last night. That's a win. The week before, though, I thought I had good numbers. Jaguars under 46.5, loser. Atlanta over 44.5 was a winner. Tampa Bay plus 3 was a winner. Before that, Carolina plus 4 a week before that, I had losers getting early numbers. So it doesn't necessarily mean you win, but over the course of 18 weeks, you're gonna get ahead and have a winning season.
If you're an advantage player, it's better to bet early because you're an advantage player and you're anticipating what the public might do. That does help you. Like, for example, there's a game this week. It's Pittsburgh at home against the Jets.
Yeah.
Now, the Jets could have won that game the other night if Zerline could find a way to kick. But it was give or take. But now that I don't know if Adams is going to, the new wide receiver they just picked up, is really going to be in the game very much, if at all, this week. I expect you might see him. And they played together. Him and Rodgers played together many years in Green Bay, so they do know each other. It's kind of the same scheme. But they have a new offensive coordinator. They have a new defensive coordinator. They have a new head coach. They got offensive lineman problems that a lot of people will say that's what they should have gone out and gotten, some offensive line help instead of a wide receiver. And there's a good argument for that. But here's a game where Pittsburgh opened with Fields at the quarterback as a 1 or 1.5 point favorite. Now they're 2.5 point dogs, which means if they're 2.5 point dogs and you can get a favorable line, it'd be easier to buy the 3, which I would highly suggest.
Yes.
So this is where if you're betting her, but I had no idea that Tomlin was going to switch from Fields to Wilson.
I don't think it's official yet, though, Jim. I think he's talking about it. Not quite official. And I'm also understanding that a lot of people on this Pittsburgh Steelers team do not want Russell Wilson to be their quarterback.
He has not been liked. He wasn't liked by the players in Seattle. He wasn't liked by the players in Denver. As a matter of fact, Denver is paying him more money to get out of town than Pittsburgh is paying him to stay there. I mean, this is a weird situation.
And why would Tomlin entertain this thought? He's 4-2 with Fields. It ain't broke, don't fix it. What's the thought here? All he can do is separate this team.
I'm baffled by it. I don't understand.
Yeah, unless he's looking to get fired.
Nobody's firing Tomlin.
I'm saying, why? Fields is kind of gotten a little better. Like, here's a guy I think, was on a bad team, had a bad coach in Chicago. So now things are going all right. Again, he's not great, but you're winning games. You have a defense. Pittsburgh will always have a defense, no matter who the quarterback is. They've always had the same blueprint. What are you doing here? You should be the Jets.
Manage the game for them, Sean. Doesn't have to win the game, Fields. Just manage the game. That's all he has to do.
This is a game. I mean, Pittsburgh, I don't know what the stats are, but last week it was the first time they scored over 20 points.
Yeah.
Against the Raiders, who were terrible, but and the Jets aren't terrible. These both these teams have good defenses, so it's very baffling. Now, granted, Fields hasn't been able to connect anything midfield. He runs more. He can throw some bombs. He's got an arm. He's young, athletic. I think he has a lot of potential, but it has never developed into that control game where Wilson, at one point in his career, was a fantastic quarterback. He moved around a little bit. He could, he threw bombs, but he could play the middle of the field. And there must be something that Tomlin is being coerced to do to find out what he has with this guy. That may be it. Maybe that's
that lack of offense, Jim. It's the offense that's not there for Pittsburgh. And he knows he can't go into the second half of the season and not depend on the defense entirely. He's got to find some offense. I think that's what the pressure point is there for Tomlin.
Probably, yeah.
I'm trading him to Miami tomorrow. Get some kind of draft pick.
Wilson?
Yeah. I mean, if he wants Wilson so bad, he thinks he's better than trade Justin Fields to him. I don't know
that anybody wants Wilson.
Well, the problem is the money. Okay, who's going to pick up the money, and he's making a god awful amount of money.
No, I think he's only making $1 million this year. Denver's paying.
Denver's paying it.
Yeah,
Denver's paying him $36 million a year. Pittsburgh's only paying him $1 million a year.
Yeah.
Well, he's a wholesale buy at that price.
Well, so next week, I got Miami over 42.5 against Arizona. It's 47.5 now.
It's 47 now?
47.5. FanDuel at 42.5.
This is what game we're talking about?
Miami, Arizona. DraftKings, that's 47.5. FanDuel at 42.5.
Who's playing quarterback for Miami?
I don't even care who's playing quarterback for him.
Well, it's not going to be Tua, but maybe they feel it will be Tua, but he's not worth 5 points to a total. I can tell you that.
Right? I mean, what is that about?
All right.
47.5 out there. Let's we're almost an hour. We didn't get to comments. So we're gonna race through these. We'll probably go a little longer than an hour, depending on the comments. Rays in the house, my guy. What do we got here? Got the Browns +6 this week at 9.5 versus Baltimore next week. We were just talking about this, and this comment came in at 104. So right when we started, before we were talking about going ahead, he's taking a 9.5 with Cleveland. He thinks they're worth a shot. Titans +9 and under. Philly Giants. I'm a fan and watch those teams play. What do you think about the +9.5 next week
against the Ravens?
Yeah,
I would have, based on the fact they're getting offensive linemen back, they're getting shoved back.
Right.
I'd have to give them a shot. The problem is, at some point, the clubhouse, the players are going to quit on this team. I don't know when that point is. It may have already happened, but they did play a little bit of spirit last week against Philadelphia, although Philadelphia's not playing well, and they might have coaching issues there as well. But based on what I know, and of course the Ravens are playing. We're talking about the Ravens here. They're playing in Tampa on Monday night, which puts them into a short week situation. I would have to take the 9.5.
Yeah. He says, I keep riding the big dogs till the wheels fall off, except for the Patriots. Why not? I think, Mark, well, you mentioned that last week, the big dogs of like 5.5, 6 points, or something like 17-2, and all the losses are from the Patriots.
Well, they were 19-2 going into last week, and I think they're like 20-5 now. I think they got beat up a little bit last week. The big dogs did. Yeah. And that's going to come back. That's not going to live that kind of a life. Dogs of that price aren't going to continue to keep doing that. But I'm a little bit more concerned about these home dogs, like Jim mentioned here. What on God's green earth happened to the home dog? I mean, my goodness. So now you're going to find the knee jerk to the public. It's going to be all over the road favorites here this particular week. And hence you're going to end up having value. Just wait a little bit, wait it out if you're going to make a home dog play on Sunday.
Yeah. Well, I think that's with all kind of dogs. People are going to jump on public. Rye says, good call with the Browns last week, Mark. I followed it and cashed.
Nice.
John Putnam says, hello, guys. Have a good weekend. It was a bad weekend last week with all the favorites cashing. Unheard of. Let's go dogs. Yes. We were just talking about that, John. Unbelievable.
I'll
Page.
make a prediction here, though. As the teams start to separate, and you're going to have the haves and the have-nots, the better teams are going to get stronger. A, because they're getting stronger. B, they're becoming more in sync, and C, because they're picking up players from the bad teams through the trade. So the bad teams are going to get a little bit worse because they're giving up players, some of their better players, for draft picks, but the better teams are going to get stronger. Like, for example, Adams goes from the Raiders to the Jets. Yeah. That kind of thing. Amari Cooper goes from Cleveland to Buffalo. Good players going to the better teams. What's going to happen is there's going to be a separation. The good teams are going to get stronger. The bad teams are going to get worse. And guess what happens along the line with that? The point spreads get higher. That's when you want to start betting the underdogs.
Real good point, Jim. Real good. I wasn't even thinking that way, but now that you mention it, the good teams are going to get better because the bad teams are throwing up the white towel.
Yep.
Right.
Rye had a 7-teamer that he cashed, 17 parlay. We were talking about the parlays early. Lane loves it when I say save me in parlays, and best way to go 3-1 is to get the 4-teamer. Here we go. Yeah, the bait and the bet boosts. Yes, crazy. The bet boost. They try to get you with those boosted parlays. Ninja. Is there a prop for Doug Peterson will not fly home on a team plane? Again, this is when we were talking about this a while ago. He brought this up before we even talked about it. This came in at 1:30. Yeah, I think he's fired. I think he is. And talk about quarterback play, Jim. Here's another spot. So a new coach will come in here. You're stuck with Trevor Lawrence's $200 million or $300, whatever his contract is. You're stuck with that guy. And then you got Marc Lawrence. Yeah, Marc Lawrence. Mac Jones as a quarterback who is a top 5 pick for New England, who had a punt coach as his coordinator. How is this? Where is this team going?
When you have, a lot of people see these kids in college and they're playing against other college kids, and a lot of those college kids are not going to make it in the pros. But when they come into the pros, and this is my problem with pro football, they have this rookie contract, so they feel like they have to play these rookies because it gives them a chance to have small money on the rookie and pay other players. The problem is these rookies that are coming in need to be coached. They're still young. They're still very inexperienced against quality athletes who are much better than what they saw in college. And they need coaching. They need to be coached up. They need to understand the timing in the game and how to read defenses. It's not something you can very rarely you get a Stroud or Caleb Williams, how he's starting to look now, or the kid in Washington. That is really rare. It's not going to happen that often.
The majority of those players, Jim, you're talking about are coming out as underclassmen too. They're sophomores or juniors, okay? Or juniors, they're not seniors, so they're not living at least a 4-year life in college football. So they're young, they're inexperienced, and they do need coaching. Look at Mac Jones, look at Trey Lance. San Francisco makes that big trade up to move for Trey Lance. You'd have thought that would have been a good spot for Trey Lance because he's being surrounded with talent. Didn't work. Too young. So bottom line is
Zach Wilson. Where did he go? He went to the Jets, who is like a death knell for quarterbacks. And I still think he has some talent. I don't know if he's a first stringer or a backup for life.
Jim, he is a first stringer because look at Sam Darnold, look at Geno Smith. You get out of the Jets, you get out of the Jet culture, and you'll turn into a quarterback in the NFL. Come on.
That's the formula, the winning formula.
That's all I've been saying. I said these two guys play for Jets, and you heard how terrible they were, and they're going to the playoffs. What do you got here? Thoughts on the Bills laying a 9 spot versus Tennessee? Tennessee's cost me. Last week I had them opening day. I bet them. I had Miami to beat them, and they win. I don't know what the heck to think about the
if you keep playing Levis at quarterback.
Holy cow! Here's another guy. He's Richardson from Kentucky.
Maybe he's colorblind. He doesn't know what uniform he's throwing
But
the ball to.
one golden rules in this game, guys: you do not lay more than a touchdown to the top defense in the National Football League. That's Tennessee. And now you're talking that might be a double digit into the better defense, or the number one defense in the league. You can't violate that.
I agree with that.
All right, he was worried about Victor ordering a Chili's from Taco Bell. He went to Taco Bell for the chili, not even Wendy's.
Victor would never do that. I can assure you.
Thoughts on Army? Listen, I don't know. I think they roll Army. These guys, I got them in Navy in the AAC championship game. Unfortunately, they play the week after. It's going to probably knock both of them out of the playoff contention. I like Army to win. ECU, I'm not a big ECU.
Well, they're playing an ECU team that's beat them 9 times in a row.
Payback.
They're not going to be intimidated. East Carolina is by them. And you also look inside those numbers a little bit, put them like an X-ray, put those numbers up, and you see that Army's allowed season-high yards in 2 of their football games this year. So if they can't pound the ball and control the game the whole contest, and you can give them a little bit of a fight, they may be a little bit soft defensively.
Yeah, but come on. ECU just lost by 20. They were 10-point faves, lost by 20, gave up 55 to Charlotte. Were they looking ahead to Army? Like it's a look-ahead spot to an Army game?
No, that they were being East Carolina is who they were being.
Yeah, I think Army's been getting better as the season's gone on. Mar says, I've correlated parlay Bills -9 and over 41.5, 35-10. Well, you just heard Mark said about playing against a good defense. 35-10. 35.
Well, I hear that word parlay and I kind of get the shivers. That's all I can say.
Ian says, no weather for the game in England as of now.
That's news to me. But
Roof will probably be partially closed so we can have the wind. Well, who knows, Ian? Are you in?
That's still 2 days away.
Mars says they're playing Chubb. Yeah, so Chubb's back. The linemen are back. That definitely's got to help a little bit. You can't throw when you're on your back.
That will definitely help Cleveland. No question about it.
Mars says, as a Niner fan, I can say the wrong team is favored. The Cheats own us. They do own you. 0-4 last 4 times. Yes, 2 Super Bowls and then a bye week beatdown with Garoppolo.
But yes, why are the Niners favored with all that dominance, that history, and that support there? Why are they favored?
Because they're home.
They're home.
Right. And they have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder.
Jennings, Mason, both heard for San Fran, might play Purcell. Yeah, but the run game, I don't know. I think the running backs can be shuffled in because you saw Purcell coming. Or what's his name went in there. In the first game, Mason had a monster game, right? So I mean, I'm not worried about who's in there. Sneed, Pacheco, Rice, Jones, all questionable. Yeah, we know that. I mean, Pacheco, Sneeds, Rice. I again, give me the Chiefs. A-team standard. What is? Oh, hold on. A sports dog. This is fantasy stuff. I don't know this. I got to send you the guy Mike B helps you with my fantasy football. I have no idea. You guys fantasy anything? No, right?
Not me.
No. I find if I'm going to get wrapped into this, it'll just screw up my entire handicap of a game. Like, because then I'm cheering for a touchdown, but I need a team to cover. I need an under, but I want to score here. Bama, Tennessee over 56.5.
I'm already half crazy. If I start doing that, I'll be full crazy.
Right? Yeah,
the best thing about fantasy, guys, is they do have a lot of good injury information. Those people do.
That's true.
Yes,
that is true.
They uncover it.
Anything on the Bama game? I kind of like the dog because Tennessee, I think, is not good, but we're getting 3. I'll take a shot with them.
I'd like Tennessee in the football game. They're at home off a bad home loss.
Right.
Bama is not the Bama of old. You obviously know Nick Saban, and they're having their problems here right now. I don't think Tennessee can afford a loss, 2 losses in a row at home like this, if they want to be anybody or if they want to be in the playoffs. So you're going to get Tennessee's best effort here.
Pats or the Jags, Bill. This was a pick here from Jim Feist, and we went under 42 as an official show pick. Under 42.
Correct. Based on weather and conditions and the new field, absolutely, yes.
And we're going to race through these last comments. Get out of here. Asarelli, Washington's going to put up 40 points on Carolina. QB something else. Jaden Daniels, I mean, what's there to say? The guy's he's been fabulous so far. Does he have a turnover yet? I mean, they're playing excellent.
He's remarkable. And the good thing about him is he's a really good pocket passer that uses the run, when he needs to. But he's not like Richardson. When he runs, he doesn't look to make contact. He looks to avoid contact.
Right. Richardson wants to barrel you over. Right.
Yeah. That's why he's getting hurt.
Daniels is also number 4 in the league in quarterback passer rating. So he's a very well-rounded player here, obviously.
I do like Victor's total play with that, not only in the first half, but full game, because Carolina is going to move the ball on that Washington defense, which is absolutely horrible.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
We got Team Money's second Lions over Minnesota. Listen, I was talking about this on my show. I was like, give me the under in this game.
That's the best game of the week right there.
Lions have had some spotty. Okay, they put up 40 plus over Cowboys with a bad defense, and they put 40 plus on Seattle in a travel spot in a kind of payback for Seattle beating them. Before that, they struggled in Arizona. They didn't really look that great against a bad Rams defense. Vikings defense is real. Give me the under in that game.
I'm kind of torn on this here a little bit, Sean, for 2 reasons. One, you make the case against Minnesota, undefeated team, but they've been out-yarded their last 3 football games. That's not good at all. That's going to catch up and bite you here real quick and real soon. The other side of the coin is they're undefeated with a week of rest in the National Football League. Those teams play really, really well. So you got a plus on Minnesota, a negative on Minnesota. I'm going to watch the game.
Mark, let me ask you a question on this. They scored 47 points last week against Dallas. In Dallas, America's team, they destroyed them. What does that do the next game? Because I know you have every stat in the world with your database. Is that a come-down spot for them, even though it's a division game, and it's a very important division game?
It's a good question, Jim. And yes, it is a come-down spot. When you put all those points up on the road, okay? Atypical doing something just like that, like they did against Dallas. And where are they now? On the road here again. So a little bit tough, difficult spot here for Detroit to be in, but it is a division game, so they're not going to look past Minnesota any way, shape, or form.
Ray says, I got a bet boost on a team or total. If I see a bet boost on a team or total, I go the other way. I'm all for that. Someone on Twitter followed the bet boost, and it was actually a winner if you went against all their bet boosts, if you went opposite of the bet
What
boost.
is a bet boost?
They will take the odds. It's instead of 180, they'll bring it down to plus 105 or something. They give it a boost. They change the odds on games.
Never heard that.
Yeah, it's like a FanDuel DraftKings kind of thing.
But do they make it then become a teaser bet when they're giving you those odds?
Except on the money line, not the point spread.
I don't. They do parlay boost as well. I don't know. I don't even look at that kind of crap.
I've never heard of a bet like that.
Yeah, well, that's how they get these people in there. Bad beat refunds and Teammate says they're gonna have chips in their butts when the Chiefs get done. Who's that? The Niners. The Niners game. Yeah, he's high on Kansas City. Tennessee can't score enough to beat Bama. That's they started out putting 70 on Kent State and 60, and then they got into regular play and it's 25-15 against Oklahoma, who I think is bad team. I think Vrabel might be on his way out. But, yeah, Tennessee. I think the Alabama defense, though, they gave up, 35 points in the second half to Georgia? The South Carolina game was ugly. I'm not sold on I think the Saban defense, he had his kind of fingers on that. That was his little footprint over there.
I was going to tell you that Tennessee's winning their stats in their games by almost 300 yards a game, but a lot of that is against those high schools, like you mentioned, Kent States and those FCS teams.
Yeah, that was early. They put up a bunch of things, not in regular play.
Right.
Dan Rance pops it in. I like Dan's Rance. This name is very fitting for Dan's Rance. If you don't follow Dan's Rance, I follow him on Twitter as well. He goes on a bit of a tangent sometimes. It's funny. John says kind of like Colorado -7, but the leading wide receiver is out for State. I have no, I'm not a. This is Colorado State. Colorado State -7, not Colorado. I was gonna say I'm not a. What's his name? A Dion kind of game. I don't even know who Colorado State's playing, so I don't have anything on this game.
No opinion whatsoever.
Any thoughts on Texas Tech laying the 6?
I would take the points with the 6 in a game like that. Again, I keep probably boring people to death, but Texas Tech is winning games and losing yards. That bites you big time bad. They've won 3 games in a row. They got out-yarded all 3 football games, and now they're laying points to a hungry football team that needs a win to try and stay bowl eligible. You got to grab the points there.
Yeah, I agree with that, but you keep playing with fire, it's going to get you.
Yep.
And especially as a favorite. It's not like they're a dog. They're favored here. All right, we're an hour plus. We're on our first Friday here with Jim Feist.
Where's the time? Oh, huh?
Yeah. And again, I guess when people start seeing the time, they know we're going to be cutting it short. So those comments just come to a dead stop. Recapping our picks for today. Victor King, having a time in Cleveland, likes the over first half, Washington 24.5. Jim Feist under 42, New England Jaguars. Marc Lawrence taking the home dog Cleveland Browns plus 5.5 versus the Bengals. I'm going Kansas City plus 110 against the San Francisco 49ers. These are our free pick video today. It's a Football Friday free pick show. Go get our premium stuff at gamblersWORLD.net. We had it streaming before. I think Mark's on a run in college football.
They got a nice 5-star game of the month on the site there right now as well, Sean.
There you go. I was going to throw it to you in a second, but there you go. 5-star for Mark. Jim, anything this weekend going?
I got a ton of stuff. I hope it's up on the site. I have a bunch of totals and there's quite a few sides. I think I have like 7-8 pro games and 5 or 6 college games already posted.
And when you have multiple games like that, I'm like that as well. I got a Friday night game, but I have 6-7 games for NFL, another 10 for college football, a 3, 7, or 38 package. They're all included. All right. So make the smart money move. Get a longer extended package. If you don't show a profit, we credit you back. You run at it again. You see the records. There's a leaderboard. Go get it. Support the show. Support the channel. Like buttons. gamblersworld.net for all the premium stuff. Thank you, Jim Feist, Marc Lawrence on a Friday. Hopefully we get you back another time, Jim. It was fun having you on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the invite.
Listen, hey guys, have a great weekend. Thank you.
Mark, thank you as well. Have a good one, fellas. Goodbye, everybody.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.